Hey everybody, meteorologist Danielle Noyce here for the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network. This is your pattern predictions. We're going to take a look at the next couple of weeks as we round out the end of October and kick off November here. And as always, we like to start with the jet stream pattern, the upper level winds high in the sky. They steer storms, they act as the thermostat, and what do you know? No big changes to the overall pattern here, which has featured some troughiness, that big dip in the jet stream that lifts northward here over the next couple of days, not impacting us in terms of any storminess, but opening the door to that warmth, like Matt talked about in Insights, record challenging warmth as we head into the Thursday timeframe for Halloween. After that, we get a brief dip that comes in, some slightly cooler than average temperatures for the upcoming weekend. What do you know? Start of next week, very similar. We get this trough that digs into the desert Southwest, likely to be some areas of severe weather in the southern and central plains as we head into the Monday timeframe. That's where the biggest battle zone is taking place in terms of temperature, in terms of storminess. That will lift into eastern Canada. So we again open up some warmth, although it won't be quite as warm as this upcoming Thursday, slightly above average temperatures for the beginning part of next week here in New England. Then we get some upper level energy that does dive south. Notice it's not a big dip in the jet stream, but as we head towards the middle and end of next week, there'll be a return to some slightly cooler than average or at least seasonable temperatures by the end of next week and perhaps into next weekend too. After that, November 11th, 12th timeframe, there's a big Pacific jet stream, a strong jet that comes into the Pacific Northwest. Same pattern. Do you kind of notice that? The dip that comes into the West Coast and then the ridge that builds. So although there are some shots of cooler air here in the Northeast and New England, we're not getting that trough to really sink into the East Coast. There's ridging, that high pressure that's been the case across much of the eastern seaboard most of this fall, and that will continue here with these shots of cooler air that come in, but it's not prolonged cold. And you see that in the surface weather forecast here. So a lot of the yellows and the oranges, where are they focused? For most of us across the eastern half, perhaps a little more of that of the country. Matt talked about it in Insights, colder than normal with areas of snow and portions of the Rockies here through the middle part of the week with that colder air sticking around through the weekend and into the start of next week, especially with elevation. But the same thing taking hold across much of the Central Plains, Mid-Atlantic, down in the south with temperatures above average, and the above average temperatures overall in the next couple of weeks will be the story across much of the country. Now, there is some storminess south of Alaska, and notice the deeper pinks and purples. Still a lot of cold bottled up, record cold, in fact, in spots. And if we can get these little chunks or pieces of it to cut off and kind of sink southward here, Pacific Northwest, northern plains heading into the middle of November may get a few chunks of that may then extend east, but again, not for a prolonged period of time. So in terms of temperature, what stands out here? 80 degrees on Halloween. That's the warmest day of the next 2 weeks. Then you notice we're kind of in the middle, right? Slightly below average heading into the weekend. We bump it back up into the lower 60s for the start of next week. And then after that, seasonable levels, most of us running in the 50s, particularly heading into the end of next week and the Saturday, Sunday, November 9th and 10th time frame. And overnight lows aren't that extreme either. In fact, the coldest will be tomorrow morning. And then with the mild air coming in, that actually promotes fairly mild overnight periods as well. The next shot of some colder temperatures around freezing would come in during the Saturday night, Sunday morning time frame. Then we actually get fairly mild again too, as we head into the beginning and middle part of next week before cooling back off into the 40 or slightly below that. Of course, northern New England, colder than that the farther north you go throughout this extended time period. Now, we obviously need rain. We've got expanding areas of moderate drought across portions of New England, and the percent chance of precipitation isn't that high. You notice the greatest chance of some rain comes in for the Tuesday timeframe of next week. Until then, yes, there's a maybe 10, 20% chance you get a passing shower, but even with these fronts come in, they're progressive. They keep moving. They're fairly moisture starved, so it's not like you get an extended period of steady rain or anything like that. Tuesday, we may get some pockets of rain that come through. And then next week, end of next week into next weekend, it looks like at least about a 20 to 30% chance of a brief passing shower with no big storms in the forecast. Meanwhile, still talking about the tropics because hurricane season lasts until the end of November. You notice down in the Caribbean, we've got some clusters of thunderstorms, some focusing too just off the northern coastline of South America. the National Hurricane Center is actually watching this cluster that's south of Cuba for some potential development, about a 40% chance in the coming days that it shows some signs of organization. Now, off the west coast of Africa, there hasn't been much in terms of activity, and then that's thanks in part due to the dust that comes off the Saharan desert. There was one cluster that came off the last several days. That's kind of weakening in the central Atlantic, though. But notice the deeper browns. Any thunderstorms that are trying to develop off the west coast of Africa are getting squashed by this dust, the dry air that's in place. So we're not really overly concerned with any development in that region. And in fact, the overall favorability for thunderstorms and tropical development are the areas you see in red. And you remember, even just a few weeks ago, they really extended farther north into the Gulf, even prior to that. There's not many areas that we're really concerned with. In terms of favorability, it's the spots that I mentioned down across the Caribbean, off the coastline of the north coast of South America, and then towards the Lesser Antilles. We have some favorability, but not any organization in terms of any low pressure developing. We will watch one area as we head into the upcoming weekend, try to show signs of development well north and west of Aruba. So still things to watch in the tropics in the weeks to come as we kind of close out tropical season. Of course, end of November is the official end, but we can get development after that occurs. We'll keep you posted. Of course, all our weather info, including our videos, right on our app. It's free in the App Store and Google Play. We get the 14-day forecast. The videos are at the top. We get our blogs on there as well. And our merch store is open, swag.onedegreeoutside.com. We've got plenty of items on there to choose from, different colors as well if you want to check it out. We'll see you with more weather coming up later on today.